So guys, the new Thomas movie special is out now. What do you guys think? Percy, you know all those criticisms that we got for Magic Railroad? Yeah? Well, this film deserves those criticisms. I mean, what? All our hard work, all our dedication to service, everything we've done. And this is how we're repaid in our first special in our second movie. How on earth? What did we do to deserve this? What? I don't know. But we deserve better. I agree. Look, at least I became main character in this story. I thought you were already a main character like a year or so before. Yes, but I'm confirmed main character status here, and I get to live at Timber Sheds from this point onwards. Where's your number? I won't be getting that until 2020 with Series 24. Well, that's just ludicrous. I agree. I should be at least given it now. Now I'm a main character. Yeah, what number would you like? 12. Good number. Double my number. Yes, and you'd be part of the NWR 12. Yeah, that's not funny. No, I'm trying to be serious. Oh well, maybe in like 15 years or so I'll get it. This movie sucks. Yeah. Yeah. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review on Thomas and Friends, Calling All Engines, the first of the Thomas and Friends feature-length specials. This is the first of the Thomas and Friends feature-length specials that, from 2008 to 2018, would be a yearly thing alongside the TV series, and usually would tie in with a following series, e.g. The Great Discovery, the next one, would tie in with Series 12. So there's about 13 of these ones, plus a 14th half-length special, a 45-minute length special, serving as the 70th anniversary special. And this one and that one are direct-to-video home media releases only, whilst the other ones got limited theatrical releases as well as released on home media. They stopped in 2018, and now they've only doing 3 20-minute specials per series alongside the regular episodes. And Magic Railroad is the current only theatrical film, the only one that's made for the cinema, as opposed to a special or film for video and DVD that may or may not get a limited theatrical release. So after Thomas and the Magic Railroad was a critical and financial failure, things were looking a bit bleak for the Little Blue Tank Engine, as well as the show's producers. Thankfully, Thomas and Friends would get back onto track with help from Hit Entertainment. In 2002, Series 6 was made and aired, and Series 7 followed in 2003. And from those series onwards, the show would be annually, which is something which is still going on today with Series 24. Season 24, Series 24 doesn't really matter for this show. With Series 24 currently airing as we speak, or at least start showing at least the first couple of episodes on Channel 5 at the moment. However, after the 7th series aired in 2003, Britt Allcroft stepped down as the showrunner of Thomas and Friends, leaving behind a near 20-year legacy and a near 20-year relationship with the Little Blue Tank Engine. And after that, Hit Entertainment probably saw an opportunity to make Thomas how they wanted it, as now they owned the franchise, they owned the episodes, they're now releasing them, and now Britt Allcroft has left, they can do their own spin on Thomas and Friends, starting with Series 8. So, what did they do? They decided to change a couple of things. First of all, the music composers were swapped out, and they changed the theme tune and the titles, and they added a roll call song at the very end for absolutely no reason. That's still being used on every single episode to this date, although season 24 has recently had a few other songs play at the end of the episodes instead of the roll call. So one episode will have roll call, one episode will have another song, one episode will have a completely different third song, for example. Not sure if 22 and 23 have done that, but certainly 24's done that. The lighting on the sets seem to be a little bit darker for these compared to the more lighter sets of the first 5 seasons. This might be a thing with season 6 and 7 as well, but I think they've definitely, the sets for the Hit Entertainment series up until the final model series, series 12, they definitely look dark. The lighting's a bit darker. The stories are extended from 4.5 to 5 minutes to about 8 to 9 minutes, plus the roll call song at the end. There's also a bit at the start about the island of Sodor, for that's also not needed, but it's going to be there until the end of series 12. And they introduce a steam team, which consists of the numbers 1 to 7 of the Northwestern Railway's 1 to 11 team group. Now, for me, the Northwestern Railway 1 to 11 group was, at the time of when I was growing up, that was like going from these are the Northwestern, this is the Fat Controllers numbers 1 to 11 engines. So Thomas 1, Edward 2, Henry 3, etc., etc. Duck, Donald, Douglas, and Oliver were numbers 8 to 11, by the way, for those who are unsure about who is numbers 8 to 11, because certainly after the Steam Team only went up to, well, technically it's 8 engines, but 1 to 7. So as far as Toby on the numerical count, then people would probably not be as aware about Duck, Donald, or Douglas, or Oliver as much. Especially between series 8 and 17, they wouldn't be that much aware about them. But yeah, so in my head, that was the numerical count, and it certainly seemed the same way for the showrunners up to number 7, which was, of course, Toby. Plus one other engine who, in my childhood brain, should have been number 12, certainly from this special onwards, and only recently, well, the episode hasn't actually broadcast on Channel 5 yet, but just this year, she finally got the number she damn well deserved for the last 17 years. Nearly 17 years. Is it 17? It might, or at least 17 years since her introduction, but it's about 15 years since this special, so it's taken just over a decade and a half to give Emily a 12, the number 12 that she so rightly should have had from day fucking 1, or at the very least since this special. Why did they take so long? I don't know. Okay, that's not really a massive problem with this special, but that is something I've just been wondering for a decade and a half. Why on earth Emily just didn't get a number? Not especially 12, which was the one I thought she should have because of the my NWR is 1 to 11 head count, and it just made sense that she'd be the number 12 engine. And finally, this year, she got that freaking number 12 that she should have had from at latest 2005. Actually, no, that episode has aired on Channel 5. That episode has recently aired at time recording. That she's finally gotten that number 12. Finally. Anyway, so yeah, Emily's the 8th main character in the series up at this point when they introduced this new Steam Team. But she didn't live at Tidmouth Sheds in Series 8, and this special actually has Tidmouth Sheds knocked down so that they can make another berth or space in the sheds so that Emily can stay there, which is good. This also adds to that frustration of why she wasn't given a 12 at this point in time, why she had to wait until 2020 to get that number 12. It's only really when we got 2 other new main characters with numbers that I can see why they were given those numbers, but why they weren't 13 or that aren't 13 or 14, the 18 and 22. I can see why those numbers were given to Nia and Rebecca 2018 and season 22, but for the introductions, but why not 13 or 14 just to fit it in line, especially as their main characters. But you know, they got numbers. That was better than what Emily. That was better deal than Emily until recently. But yeah, especially after those 2 characters got introduced, it was Emily really did need a number, and thank God we got it recently. Thank goodness. Anyway, so that little rant outside, because that's not what I'm ranting about in this review, well, apart from just now, but that's not my major issues with this special. That's just with, that's just in general. So Calling All Engines kind of serves as a kind of a connection between series 8 and 9. We've already gotten this new format started with Series 8, and it feels like this episode is special, actually is kind of like I wouldn't say an extended episode of Series 8, because they're 9 to 10 minutes in, whilst this is about 60, just under, this is an hour, but it just feel like it's not really special enough, it's just a big episode, which would be fine, but it's kind of treated like several little ones just smacked together, just to make like it could have been a like a 7 or 8 part story just merged into a single bit. So the plot involves Thomas and the other engines having to help build a new airport on Sodor to get more passengers and holidaymakers onto the islands to take them to several destinations. Not only that, but the sheds are now being demolished and to be rebuilt. For reasons that are not yet explained, I'm not actually sure what was wrong with the old sheds. They didn't really say what was wrong, why they needed to be rebuilt. The only reason I can presume is so that they can have a seventh berth at those sheds, so that Emily can stay there. That's my only theory on why these. That's the only reason I can see why these sheds were knocked down in the first place. In the context of the show, of the we want the producers and the showrunners want, we need Emily at Timmer's sheds, we need to make another shed, let's rebuild the shed set. Maybe the old set was falling down as well, but let's rebuild the sheds, a new, nicer looking one, and it has an extra space so we can include another main character. Toby's still got his own little shed near on his branch line, so he's okay. So yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. But into the context of the story, there isn't really an explanation given. But yeah, so Titmus Sheds is knocked down so they can rebuild. However, due to the Diesels are undertaking that work, and due to Thomas basically messing around with them, because the steam engines and the diesel engines throughout the show, they don't really like each other. They'll get along with each other quite a lot, but there will be plenty of times where they will not. And this one is definitely the steam engine versus diesel engine um, discrimination of each other, basically at all-time high, basically, as Thomas and Percy do not like working with Ari and Bert, the diesel engines at the airport, so Thomas decides to play a trick on Ari and Bert at one point, and then on Diesel at another point, which ultimately ends up in Tidmouth Sheds' new rebuild being delayed, and the engines have to sleep elsewhere, which causes the steam engines to be pissed off with the diesel engines, who are already pissed off with Thomas for delaying their work. So the other engines have to go and sleep elsewhere, and then there's a big giant storm that basically damages parts of the island, including the suspension bridge. So the engines have to try and fix everything and build the new airport and still do their jobs. But because the steam and diesel engines cannot work together, no jobs get done, and they just end up fucking with each other. Basically, they just fuck each other up, causing lots of more problems. So Thomas has to rally all of the engines together to try and fix everything and do all of the jobs and make sure everything is done after getting the realization of this inner dream sequence. And yeah, it's basically the plot. Doesn't sound too bad, does it? But the only problem is, I think when Britt Allcroft left the show, I think she took most of the best writers with her. Once Hit Entertainment started getting involved, the writing kind of went. It was okay. It was fine. But it wasn't as interesting or as fun as before. And this special is certainly an example of that. This is a pretty dull special in places. Not much is actually that exciting, and alongside of that, I think some of the direction is also a little bit stilted in these series. With the model ones, they like to have them faster paced shots and edits, which don't always work. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. But yeah, with the writing, it's a little bit bland and plain in places. It's okay in other times, but it's not so great. And this is a problem with series 8 through to 11. It's even worse in series 12, by the way. Series 12, after series 13 to 16, which are the abomination series, especially 14 and 15. But after those ones, series 12 is the next worst, in my opinion. But we're not quite there yet. We're between 8 and 9 at the moment, so we're going from, okay, not too bad to begin with, to it's still pretty good, to when it's starting to go downhill now. And yeah, this story is just a pretty bland script. It's a pretty bland story. We needed a bit more excitement here. What's more, this plot keeps being interrupted. Okay, Thomas and Friends usually has a couple of songs in them, or alongside the episodes. And like I said, series 8 onward have the roll call song at the end, or in series 24's case, that or another song, um, or or one or two other songs at the moment. Maybe other songs will come in later on, but um, there's always songs alongside to be released alongside the series. Maybe they'd be released as extras on the videos and DVDs and Blu-rays and online. But in this band, there are, in some of the specials, there are songs and stuff played. Magic Railroad had this. There'll be songs in some of the other specials, 2015, 16, 17. No, not 15. 2016, 17, and 18 ones, and musicals even. But the plot doesn't really stop for those. I'm not saying for the 2008 to 2018 specials, but Magic Railroad songs never really stopped. So that you could have a song. Neither did any of the TV episodes. But this story just stops the plot to have some songs and have a song montage now and again. Some songs are, some of the songs do show clips where they are sort of story related or back to the usual slice of life storylines. But some of the songs stop the plot midway through the story. It just stops the plot for a bit. What's even worse is that for some reason they feel the need to include these sort of bits where they want to have the audience interact with the story, and I find these absolutely unnecessary. Why can't we just have these as normal story bits of the story, where we're learning about these differences of steam engines and diesels, Thomas messing around with Diesel's trucks, and then having to take the beam over to the suspension bridge. Was there another one? I can't really remember. Oh yeah, I'm trying to find Mavis. But why couldn't these bits just be part of the plot? Why did they have to be this sort of interaction with the audience thing? If this was a game or a DVD extra, this would have been fine. But it's stopping the plot. It's stopping the flow and momentum of the story. Instead of having have the audience guess, oh, this is who should go to this destination and do this work. The story should say that. This is not. You don't have to do that. You don't need the audience to interact with the story when you don't need it to. It's not like you don't really need to do this. It stops the plot, and I think some of the kids who are going to be watching this and be like, "Hey, hang on, what? We got to interact with this now." Okay, and even they will probably get a bit fed up after a couple of them. It just feels unnecessary. We're stopping the plot dead just so we could have this sort of educational game, which, if it was a DVD extra, it could work, but it's stopping the story. It's a special. Did this one get limited? No, this one didn't get shown in the cinemas. But if it did, this would definitely be stopping the plot. Stopping the plot just to do this, and it doesn't need to do it. You can have the educational bits, but you don't have to stop the plot. Another thing about this series is that there will be steam transitions from the titles to the Island Solo bits, to the main story, which was later removed for post season 12 stuff, and then at the end it would steam, and then the song, and then steam credits. But here we just get different scenes have the whole steam smoke thing as a transition, and this sometimes works itself into the songs, and it's a bad way of transitioning between scenes. I can get it why it's in the show, but in the special, it just works as a poor transition. I'm also not really so keen on the characterizations. I think everyone's kind of a bit less intelligent in the post Brit Allcroft. I think everyone goes down in intelligence, at least until the Andrew Brennan era, if that started with Series 17. I just think characters are just less intelligent, and probably get less intelligent as the show goes on until the Brenner era. So, in this special shows that the characters are pretty single-minded until they start working with each other. And then that brings me to another problem. Why on earth is it Thomas who has that big crash at the end, and he's the one who causes the last-minute problems? The special's been all about everyone working together, so everyone fixes the issues, and then the one engine who's caused the earlier problems and now realised his mistake and is coming to rally everybody together, then makes one last mistake and everyone hates him again for for a little bit before having to get Diesel 10 to come and help. It shouldn't have been Tom. I don't think it should have been any engine who should have caused that thing. It should have been a natural thing. Maybe that water tower was sturdy. Yeah, it just feels like a forced final thing to do before the ending, as well as a way to get Diesel 10 to do something. Oh yeah, what was the point of having Diesel 10 in this special? This special advertised itself as having the return of Diesel 10 and Lady from Magic Railroad, and that was probably the biggest thing that younger me got excited for when this special came out, is that they're bringing back these characters from Magic Railroad. And at that time, Magic Railroad was probably one of my favourite films at the time when I was younger, so yeah. So I would have been hyped to see these characters return. Neither of them get used really well. Lady appears in a dream sequence and is the one to convince Thomas to get everyone to work together, but she's only there for about a minute at most, and apparently she now works in the mountains, but hang on, I thought she went back to Shining Time, or the Magic Railroad, and she's never been seen since. She's never been seen since this special, and she was now not in any of the episodes of series 6, 7, or 8, so she's only appeared twice, and this is all they do with her. Goodness me, she's one of the most notable underused characters, isn't she? With both combined with this and her appearance in Magic Railroad, she's been so underused, despite being a very important character in the former, and some of the marketing showing her return for this one only for be a minute of screen time. If I was running Thomas the Tank Engine, I would make her a main character. I would give Tim and Sheds an 8th shed, berth, etc. Just build it alongside. Don't not rebuild it completely. Well, maybe I would if the new CGI model had to be different to the old one. But if I didn't have to change it, I just add an extra one on to the left or to the right of the current one, just an extra bit, and just extend it to be 8 berths. If it had to be completely rebuilt, so be it. But it'd be done off screen, and so we wouldn't have the problems we have in this special. And then, with that shed being 8 berths, I then have her as a main character, and I'd give her the number 15, and I'd renumber Nia and Rebecca 13 and 14, by the way, respectively. And she would be a main character, and she'd go and work off on a new branch line built in the northern section of the island. And I just stopped myself there because I just realised, I can tell you more about the potential ideas if I took over Thomas in a potential video. I'm actually thinking about doing a potential video series about what I would do if I made movies or was in charge of a TV series or something. If I did something my way, like I think I teased this last year, and what I might do if I did a Die Hard 6 or a live-action Kim Possible film. So perhaps in a future video I could talk about what I might do if I was in charge of Thomas the Tank Engine starting from season 25. For starters, I make it feel like seasons 1 to 7 again, so I'm sure many of those fans will be happy. 17 to 21 started to look that way, so that's at least be like those. So yeah, Lady does hardly anything. As for Diesel 10, firstly, it's a surprise that he's been invited back, considering the trouble he caused on the island last time. Then again, Diesel caused some problems when he first arrived, and then he came back, and then he caused some more problems, and then he came back permanently after a few years' gap. So, okay, so maybe it shouldn't be too much of a surprise. But Diesel 10's use in this episode is just reduced to picking up stuff and putting it into trucks, and that's about it. He's supposed to be scary, to scare the other engines, but he doesn't really do anything that's worth being scary apart from having that claw. Now, if it was explained that the engines were scared of him due to the events of the Magic Railroad, or maybe he's done some other things, maybe it would make sense, but no, it's just because he's got a big giant claw. Yay. And yeah, he doesn't get much of a good use in this story either. It's kind of this story doesn't really use its characters really well. It's quite weak. I can get the plot of the whole steam versus diesel engine plot thing, but it's not really handled very well. Then again, I shouldn't expect that from a script from seasons 8 to 16, so who am I kidding? And yeah, it's kind of a weak story. It's a bit bland, and I think the worst bits are those bits where we just interrupt the plot for absolutely no reason. You can do your songs you could do the songs, but at least transition it better and make it feel like it's more towards a story reason. And then the educational bits, you can do educational bits, but you don't have to stop the plot. You don't have to make it look like it. Do it. Audience interaction thing. Don't do that. This is a movie. Almost, it's a special, but yeah, it would have been fine for a game, but it's not for a movie special thing. Uh, okay. Is there anything that was good? Well, Michael Angelis, he does a fantastic job in the narration again. In fact, the only time I'm not so keen on Michael Angelis's narration is in season 12, where he just sounds bored and unenthusiastic. I think in series 13 he gets his enthusiasm back, not due to the script he's receiving, but due to the fact that he doesn't have to do all the voices anymore. They've got voice actors in. So I think he's more enthusiastic in seasons 13 to 16 due to the fact that the voice actors are in. But by season 12, you can definitely tell he's getting bored of the narration, because he's got to do the narration, he's got to do the voices. He's probably not enjoying the scripts he's been given, and some of the narration bits that are included just are a bit unnecessary, especially when the voice actors do come in at some points. This is a visual media after all, and once the voice actors do come in, they can actually start talking to each other without the narrator doing voices or having to say they said or whatever. But certainly by series 12, Michael Angelis is getting bored by the job, and only gets his enthusiasm back once voice actors come in to do the voices, and he's just relegated to the narration bits, which probably help him a bit. But here and now, he's still really great and still doing an absolute cracking job. Um, and yeah, that's about it. The sets look pretty good, and despite the darker lighting, the sets still look pretty good, and there's some interesting crashes. But overall, there's just something off about this special. I'm not quite sure what it is, apart from the usual story working of the era at the time the usual show was in. But I don't know, there's just something even more. This special just feels like it wants to be something special, but it's being a bit bland and boring. I think the problem is that it does stop the plot at times just to do these unnecessary things. The unnecessary additional songs, the unnecessary interaction with the audience, the unnecessary parts of the story that don't need to be there. It's it's a little bit forced in places, and it just doesn't. It's not a naturally flowing story. I'm not sure what the future specials are like, but they've got to flow a little bit more better on a story level basis, because this one just feels like smaller stories just crammed together to make this big one. It just doesn't fit. Hopefully the longer specials and the other specials feel a bit better in a story basis. So overall, Thomas and Friends Calling All Engines is a disappointing special. It could have been so much better. It could have been so much more entertaining. It could have been so much more fun. The story could have been a lot more good, and we could have had a bit more interesting stuff from the Steam versus Diesel rivalry, as opposed to just calling each other's names and just bumping into each other for no reason. And it could have just been quite fun. And also we could have used those Magic Railroad engines again more properly, and with a bit more plot involvement. It was nice to have Lady back for the dream sequence, but she was just there for a minute, and that was it. And Diesel 10, whilst he doesn't have to be the main villain of the story, in fact, he's not even a villain in this story. This is the one time where he's not a villain. But I think we could have had him be a bit more used a bit more. And yeah, the rest of it just doesn't quite fit. It feels problematic, and this just doesn't flow. It does not flow very well. And I think this is a problem that the era at the time had, but this one's on a larger scale because it's a special. Whether future specials can improve on this by being a more cohesive story-based narratives is yet to be seen, by me at least. Anyway, what do you guys think of the specials from 2008 to 2018? I know Sodal's Legend of the Lost Treasure from 2015 is really good, as is the Adventure Begins one in 2014. But yeah, and apparently the Misty Island one from 2010 might be the worst one. That one introduced Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand, so I would not be surprised. But yeah, what do you think of if you've seen the other specials, what do you think of those ones? Let me know. Buzz, for Calling All Engines, this is a disappointing first special and a disappointing Thomas story. And considering this era, that's saying a lot. I shall be giving Thomas and Friends Calling All Engines a 4 out of 10.
Down the hills and round the bends, Thomas and his friends. All the engines are on hand, waiting for a plane to land. Be they diesel, be they steam,
not outright awful. It's still got some decent moments. It's still moderately well executed, besides some of the usual filming and editing techniques at the time of that series. But the plot could have been better. I mean, as a simple story, it would have been fine, but I don't know if it works as maybe if it's a half-hour special, but it's a 60 minutes, it's an hour-long special. So I don't know if it quite works, and the whole rivalry could have gone in a better direction, and those educational interaction bits, you don't need to have them be interactional bits. You can still do some educational bits, but you don't have to be interactions. Just have them merged with the story, and the same with the songs, and it just doesn't work. And the Magic Railroad Engines, which was the biggest hook for me when this special came out, they get very underused, which is a shame. But there's still some enjoyability to be found. It's just once the plot is actually moving, as opposed to stop starting, etc. Okay, so one other thing. This is more for future episodes, as opposed to what happens here. So the airport station is very small for some reason. When they build the airport, they have a very small platform for the station when we see it in future episodes. Not sure why. Usually airports in real life have pretty big stations. So, well, apart from Tees Valley up in the northeast, but even that one has a pretty decent sized platform, so I'm not sure why this one only has a tiny one when we next see it. So yeah, it should have had a bigger platform and maybe its own station. Anyway, but that's a problem with what comes up later as opposed to what's in here, but I just wanted to mention that now. Anyway, so that's it for my review of Thomas and Friends Calling All Engines. That's it from me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Shunting trucks and hauling freight, red and green and brown and blue. They're the really useful crew, all with different roles to play around Tidmouth Shed so far away. Down the hills and round the bends, Thomas and his friends.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel.